welcome to another episode of Good Time Gal. I'm your host, Caitlin Peluffo. Thank you so much for tuning in. This week on the pod, we have Sarah Tollemache, who is just fantastic. She's wonderful. You can follow her everywhere, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, at @stollemache. Follow her on TikTok. She is dancing up a storm and getting those follows. You know what I mean? She's doing a great job. It's really fun to watch. And this episode was a lot of fun to record. So please have a listen. Also, if you could rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, it really helps other people find us. Leave a review if it's nice. That would help my whole inside parts. Well, you didn't need to know that, but that's how I feel about it. If you also want to follow me on Instagram and Twitter, I'm at Caitlin Peluffo, and the pod is at Good Time Gal Pod. That would also be helpful. You know, we're just trying to survive. You know what I mean? I'm killing all my plants, even though I have no choice but to be at home. So I need something. I need a win. All right. But do whatever you can, but mostly just enjoy this podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. It really means a lot. And I hope you're staying happy and healthy out there. Love you bunches. Oh, boy. Thank you for doing the podcast. This is fun. It's kind of, I'm excited because this podcast is about dumb drunk stories. And yes.
I have stuff.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. I was telling Joe about it, and he was like, "Oh, you should have Sarah do that." And I was like, "Oh, Sarah, a side of you I haven't seen."
I went hard for several years. So
yeah, that's very exciting. Because right now, like, I see Sarah very mellow, very funny, very, excitable, but like not a rager by any means. You know what I mean?
No, it doesn't feel like, no, not anymore. But I do like staying up late, but I like to stay up late in my own home.
Yeah. Yeah, I get that. I'm at that point now too. It's like if I'm at a bar, it's like, oh, too many people.
Yeah.
Where are you from?
I grew up in Texas.
Oh, I think I knew that.
Yeah. I feel like you've only met me sober, so that's how you know me.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think so. How long have you been sober?
I'll have 11 years at the end of July.
Wow. 11 years? That's amazing.
Yeah.
And was that just like you just decided one day, or was it a journey?
It was a journey. No, it was probably about 10 years. I had already been by my therapist. She had said, she was like, "Yeah, you're an alcoholic." And then it took me 10 years after that diagnosis, or for somebody to just be like blatantly saying it, for me to actually finally seek treatment. Oh, wow.
And were you...
Or a 12-step program.
Yeah. Were you in New York when you got treatment, or were you in Texas?
I was in New York. So I had at least one full drinking year in New York.
Oh, well, that's fun.
I know. Well, I'm glad I got to put that in. Every now and then I feel like I wish I did one more year.
Yeah?
Yeah, well, just because sometimes I'll walk by a bar or like a place and I'm like, that probably is a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see what you're saying. We were driving through the city today, and we were just like, "Oh, that bar looks awesome. I hope it reopens so I can go in."
Yeah, or like a beer garden. I can't.
My Siri just started yelling at me. Yeah.
I know Siri's been butting in a whole bunch lately for myself as well.
Yeah, it's too much. Okay. I didn't ask. Siri is a hard thing to say. Oh, no, she's going to come back now. No, she didn't. Okay. That was a malfunction. I must have hit something. I am the least tech savvy person alive. This took years for me to actually put on, but here we are.
I feel like you're doing better than most.
Oh, Sarah, God bless you. Oh, you're a sweet lady. Okay, I'm sorry. What were you saying?
Just like, I went to a beer garden. I used to love beer gardens because I like being outside and I like drinking beer and all the food. But now it's so noisy with all that outside chatter that you're like, if you're not drunk, then these places aren't fun anymore because now you're just yelling.
Yeah, a sober beer garden, I can imagine that would be a nightmare. Just literally sitting at a picnic table with people who are hammered.
That's how, like, camping too. Like, I can only do camping if I'm actually like doing stuff. But if we're just sitting there drinking, then it's just like not fun for me anymore. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Especially sleeping in a tent. Like, it's hard to sleep in a tent anyway.
I
so
know.
You get,
So
like, drunk so you can sleep in a tent, and now you're sober. You're like, why am I here?
yeah, at least if you're blackout drunk, you can go to sleep easier in a tent.
Yeah. Yeah, you just pass out. It's not really sleeping. It's collapsing. But so you grew up in Texas. Did you like high school, did you start drinking?
No, it's weird. I think I started kind of drinking maybe my junior year, and I didn't even really like beer.
Mm-hmm.
And then I remember smoking pot, and because everybody loved pot, and I just did not understand why everyone loved it. There were moments where I was like, "This is fun," but I think I was just having fun with friends, so I may have confused that, thinking that was pot. I just didn't like anything that made me sleepy. So I liked Coke when I got out of like because you could drink more also when you were doing Coke.
This is blowing my mind. You do not have Coke vibes about you. Not at all.
I loved the dancing, and like we could drink more hours of the night if you're on blow. That wasn't until a little bit, like maybe 1 year after high school.
Yeah.
But mainly, I just remember not liking beer, but eventually I managed to barrel through, and then I end up really liking it.
Yeah, beer garden queen.
Yeah.
That's what happened.
Well, it was my drug of choice.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I would talk about that with Joe, like when people are like, I just like having a summer ale. And I was like, no, I want to have 10 Bud Lights.
I completely agree. Oh, my favorite is Budweiser. I could get a Budweiser tall boy for $2 and be set for the night and just be like, this is great.
It's perfect. It's cheap. It gets me the buzz that I want, and I don't even mind the taste.
Yeah. I think it tastes good. Budweiser is like candy. If you've ever done Molly and then taken Budweiser, you're like, this is fruit. This is so good.
Yeah. It's easy. It's like an action film. You're like, this is digestible.
Yeah.
Like, I can get it. I like this. It's so basic. I can get into this.
Yeah. Yes. It's Sylvester Stallone of drinking.
Yeah.
Very easy. Where's my Adrian? Oh, it's very nice.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So in Texas, when you went, did you go to college?
I went to a lot of colleges.
Now that's impressive.
A lot of community colleges.
People, chumps go to one. I went to a few. So
I could never finish because it just got in the way of my drinking.
I hear you, girl.
I was always like, I'm going to find, I kept starting and stopping college. Like, I would be so gung ho. And then as soon as the first major project came, I would start dropping classes.
Really?
Yeah. I just couldn't do those commitments. But eventually I did finish school. I just got an associate's in multimedia and web design.
Oh, that's perfect.
Yeah.
I mean, that's probably better than anyone getting a master's degree in philosophy.
Well, I do have to say it was one of the most, I'm so glad that I got it. And I learned a skill set that ended up being very applicable to doing stand-up, because we have to edit all of our videos and sound recording and all that stuff, that I got really good at it. And now that you can, once you know the basics, you can just go online and figure it out yourself.
Yeah, that's great. See, I got a master's degree in art, and I don't use any of it. And I'm still paying for it, which is exciting.
Yeah.
But I have a feeling you're not paying for a community college.
No.
God, I hate my life.
No.
Yeah. Good job, Sarah. That's smart. So was it always web design?
No, it was more in the emphasis of multimedia. So I did a lot of video editing and sound editing. And then also I'm good at programming and understanding how to make it work. So I just need to work. A lot of times I'm like, God, I need to have a friend that has an artistic eye to help me out with some of this stuff. But I know the technical stuff.
See, that's great. Yeah, that's where a lot of artists are like, what the fuck am I doing? I'm done for.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, I had 15 interviews of this podcast, and I was just like, I don't know how to put it out there, so I guess I'll just keep them.
Yeah. To be my
They're
little
just
diary.
mine now. My little treasures.
Well, setting up the Libsyn or SoundCloud, it's not easy, and to get it to link up to iTunes, it's not like still to this day I want to switch my profile pic on iTunes and I don't know how to do it.
Oh yeah, good luck. I was like, I better get it right now because it's never gonna change. This is what I'll be 85 and I'll be like, I look great. That's pretty accurate.
Yeah.
That's my picture. Yeah. Oh God. Okay, so Texas. It's hard to see you as a Texan as well.
Yeah. Well, I say y'all. I like saying y'all.
That's fun. How long did you stay in Texas?
I grew up there from 1978, and then I kind of bounced back a little bit. I lived in England for a year. I did a lot of underage drinking there, and then I came back, and then I went back. I'd started doing stand up, and then I went to LA for a year. And then I came back again, and then I stayed in Houston for 8, and then I moved here, and I've been here for 11.
Oh, that's amazing. So what was in London? You went to
Well, I
England?
had an intervention, my first intervention, because my parents...
Whoa. How old were you when this first intervention
I think
happened?
I was 19, and
Okay.
my parents found out that I was doing coke. And then they also found out that I was stripping on the weekends every now and then.
Hang on. Sarah, you were stripping on the weekends?
Yes, that's how bad my drinking got.
You're incredible. I love you. That's what a curveball, I would say.
It was just for a few months, and it was on the weekends. And mainly it was because my family was going through financial problems. And I had a few girlfriends that were doing it, that were made for it. They were doing really well, and I was like, maybe I can do it. And if you're having a few drinks, you kind of get over it.
Absolutely.
And I was also and I wasn't good at it. I was good at this. I think I had the fun on the stage part, but it is actually quite a bit of work. You have to hustle, and I'm not a hustler.
You're a hustler on TikTok.
On TikTok, but when you're trying to get a guy to be like into you, like to pay you for a lap dance, because that's where your money's at. You really have to come on strong, or like, kind of have that vibe of, like, hey.
You didn't have hey vibes?
Yeah. I can't even sell myself in comedy. You know what I mean? Like, you have to sell yourself. And so that was the part I wasn't good at. So
Did you have a stripper name?
Chloe.
How exotic.
And the DJ fucked it up one time and he called me Cleo. Like that psychic lady from the 90s.
Yeah. Cleo. Chloe, I can see. Cleo is a stretch.
Yeah. I don't know why Chloe, but I just chose that as my stripper name. Yeah, I'm just trying to recall like some of the moments that I had there. One time I got so blacked out that instead of coming behind the stage through the curtains as a presenting myself as a let's hear it for Chloe. I was so fucked up. I didn't know how to get on stage, so I just climbed over the front part of the stage over the lights. And then one time I was talking to this Middle Eastern guy and both of my straps on my dress were like completely all like off. Like there was supposed to be a strap here and a strap here, and I had both of my straps on the other side. They made me leave. They were like, your friend needs to get out of here.
You were working there as a stripper, and you were so drunk that they were like, you gotta go.
Yeah.
That's impressive.
Yeah. I was just in, I guess, a brownout or maybe just a full blackout.
Yeah. Yeah, those brownouts are tricky. They'll get you because you're like, I'm fine.
Yeah, you piece it together, and then you're like, the next day you're like, oh my God, and then you're like, oh my God, I got kicked out of my job as a stripper.
Did you do like all your own makeup and your outfits and stuff?
Yeah, I didn't have a dress for the longest time, and so I used my prom dress from senior year as my stripper dress.
What did the dress look like?
It was a long halter top dress, and then it had kind of a slit that went up to the mid-thigh. But it was so poorly made because I had a lady make it for me because I couldn't find the dress that I had in mind. So I found a pattern that was kind of close to it, and she didn't put a liner in it, so it was so thin.
Oh, perfect. I mean,
Yeah.
maybe not for prom, but for your
For
extracurriculars.
stripping. She knew.
That's
Yeah, I didn't
great.
have those cute outfits those girls had.
Yeah, I mean, I've always seen them in movies. I'm not a frequenter of the strip club, but whatever, live your life. People gotta eat, and
Yeah.
it always they look so intricate and complicated. It's like, where do you buy these? And durable.
Yeah, and they're not super cheap. So I didn't have the money at the time. In fact, I had to borrow a friend's Gstring, and then she got mad at me because I bled in it. I ruined it. I probably need to make an amends to her, but I don't even know where she's at. We're not friends anymore. Not because we had a fallout. We just like went separate ways.
Yeah, well,
Sorry, I'm getting my drink.
yeah, sure, no problem. Yeah, well, maybe to you didn't have a fallout, but she was like, you bled in my G-string.
You owe me an amends.
Yeah. Oh man, so you didn't do that for very long? It wasn't in the Tollemache blood?
No, it was just one of those things where you're like, I didn't like it because I wasn't good at it. I think if I was good at it, you can make like, if you're smart, you can make a good amount of money. But most of those girls end up having like some kind of drinking or drug alcohol problem. So they're not really good with the investing of money, or they get involved with it too long that it's not like they go to school or anything for that. So it ends up being like not the greatest life choice. Yeah, I never really met a stripper that turned it around.
Yeah. Yeah, I would imagine it would be tough. And also the free booze and the money is so addicting. Just from like my time as a server, the free booze.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm never leaving. This is great.
Oh yeah. Well, I waited tables right after that, and I was like, I'm making more money waiting tables than I was stripping because I just didn't have that hustle. I always joke I made more money. I would just hang out in the dressing room of the strip club, and most of the strippers would end up dropping 100, or like because it's all in their panties, that you would find a 20 a lot of the times on the floor.
Oh wow.
So that's how I think I ended up making most of my money, was just finding money on the floor.
Did you ever get like a big tip from a guy? Did you have like a fan?
There was one guy that was really nice. I remember we ended up it sounded like I was more like a date for him that night, of just like talking to him about his business, and he was really sweet. But then I think towards the end he was like, he was nice about it. He's like, I'm going to go look for someone that could actually like dance properly and give him that full benefit. I'm all like, who did you vote for this year? Like, that's my conversation that I was having with people. They're like, I don't want to talk about this shit. I want you to be like, you're amazing. Oh my God, I could never own my own lawn mowing business. Like, you have to kind of play
That
the
was
game.
your emotional support.
Yeah.
So your parents had an intervention because of the stripping and the coke.
Yeah. So somebody, my parents found out. I wasn't very like good at hiding it, and then I went to England. They were like, we don't think rehab works. We think you have enough, too much time on your hands, so we thought maybe a location move would be good for me. And I had family that lived there, so I moved to Cambridge, England, and I lived there no, I didn't even live there for a year. I lived there for 4 months, and then you can drink at the age of 18 there. So I drank a lot there.
Yeah. Yeah. So that just added gasoline to the fire, I feel like.
Yeah,
And
definitely. So I would go to the pub all the time, but I never got crazy there. And then when I moved back to Houston, it was still like the same thing over and over again. Just like, I remember one time, I went to New Orleans and it wasn't that fun. And then I came back, and then my friend was like, do you want to go have drinks? And I was like, yeah. And then that night I woke up in my clothes hamper. That I was like, how crazy that we didn't even have a crazy night in New Orleans. And then I was like, let's go have drinks on a Sunday night. And then I just, the next thing I remember, I'm just waking up in the bathroom upstairs in the clothes hamper. I was like, how the fuck did I end up sleeping in here?
first off, how big is that clothes hamper?
It was a tall one. I was sleeping like this with my knees to my chest. It did not make any sense. I had occasion like that. One time I stayed over a friend's house. It wasn't a friend's house. It was my boyfriend that I was dating at the time. It was his friend's house. We went out, had drinks. I went to the bathroom. And then when I came back, I thought I had crawled back into bed with my boyfriend. But what I crawled into the bed to his friend's house roommate. So I crawled into bed with a complete stranger.
Oh no.
So when I woke up, he knew, he was like, what the fuck? But he knew what had happened. And so he moved. He went to go sleep on the couch. But I was like, where am I? What room is this? So I had moments like that you're like, that's crazy.
Yeah. I've had a few of those where I like wake up and I'm like, how did I get here? I don't even.
Yeah.
And where is my shit? All of my shit is gone. And so you got to piece it together, and you're like, eventually you find out that you just like left somewhere, but they have all your shit, so it's fine.
Yeah. But yeah, it's like you are having to do like a memento moment the next day where you're like, you only have certain clues. You got to look at your phone to see who you called last. And
oh yeah.
I mean, I don't even think I had cell phone records of stuff back then when I was drinking. Now,
when you were drinking, was it like, were you drinking like with friends, and was it like they were also drinking as much as you, or were you like the...
I never drank by myself. I was really good. I could always kind of like maintain and have this life that made it seem like I wasn't drinking a lot. But anytime I was just a binge drinker. So I would just go, and when I hung out with friends, I mean, that's when it could get really crazy.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. College for me, that's when it was like, we would get together, and it was just like, well, we're gonna not plan anything on Sunday because Saturday's gonna be fun. We're gonna have a good time.
Yeah.
And it was a group effort, and we did it together, and it was very fun. But if I did that now,
it was fun for a long time.
Yeah, if I did that now as a 33-year-old, I'd probably jump off the roof of this building.
Well, it's like those hangovers. That's the main reason why I had to quit. I was like, I cannot handle them because they were making me suicidal.
Oh God,
that's how bad they were.
Yeah, I mean, I could see, I haven't had one that, obviously not suicidal, but like there are times when I do it and I'm depressive for like 3 days after that. And I'm like, we got to knock this off. So Caitlin no longer does shots. Because that's just, whoa, that spiral goes down.
Where you're like, I can't do tequila. And you're like, okay.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, that's what the problem is. Tequila. Not everything else. All right. Yeah. Is this my intervention, Sarah? God damn it. No. Okay, so Houston, friends, hanging out. So in Houston, you were still drinking in Houston and going to therapy, and you were still having these hamper nights?
I was having hamper nights. Not only did I have hamper nights, like this is probably one of the craziest things that I've done. So I had lived in LA, I had broken up, and it was time for me to I had put it in storage, and then now it was time for me, knowing that what my situation was in Houston, that I was like, I found a place and now I can get my stuff. I went cross country and to go pick up my furniture. So I had a friend that was like, I'll come with you. I'd love to do a road trip. So she came with me. And then we met my other friend who just came back from England. She moved back to Arizona where her dad lived. So we stopped off there, and she's like, do you want to go to Nogales, which is a border town, I think, on Arizona and in Mexico, of course. And it goes on both sides. So Nogales is the American side, but you can get across. So we were like, let's go have a few beers. So we had a few beers. And then we finally, it's always like, let's go have a few beers. Those are the nights that end up being the craziest. It's never when you're like, we're going to Vegas, it's going to be fucking baller. Those never turned out fun. Those were always like lame. It was always the nights where you're like, let's just have a few drinks and then call it an early night. So that's what we did.
Yeah.
And then we ended up, I think we went to a cantina that was like a talent show, kind of, where it's strippers and then some old Mexican lady singing an old ballad standard or whatever. And we were like,
Yeah.
this is wild. So then after a few drinks there, then we ended up, I don't know how, but we befriended this guy who then was like, let me show you around town. And
No. Oh, no.
I don't know how we let this guy into our life. And I have to tell you, he was nice. Nothing weird happened. But I do have to tell you also, as the night happened, like the more we hung out, more information was divulged about this guy. Like he could not get back into the U.S. because he had drug charges. So that's like, oh, shit. Then we went.
Red flag number 1.
I know.
Yeah.
So then we wanted to go dancing. And then he was like, well, they don't really have dance clubs, but you can go to like a strip club and then go listen to music there and you can kind of dance there. So we went to this place called El Gato. It was something like Diablo El Gato, like the devil cat or something. So we drank more there. Then my friend, I can't say their name because I don't want to get them in trouble.
Of course.
If they care. I don't think they care anymore, but just to make it.
Yeah.
My one friend, we were like, can we, this is so white girl. We're like, we want to request a song. So I don't know how, but we end up in the backstage where the DJ is at this Mexican strip club. And we get him to play a song. And then she and I start dancing on the stage by pouring beer all over each other. And then we were thinking that the strippers were liking us. But then slowly but surely, they were trying to make us take our clothes off. And then the vibe changed. And obviously what had happened was they're running a business. And now we're fucking around on their stage. And now we're taking away their business. So we're the assholes in the situation.
Mm-hmm.
But then we were like, now this is getting weird. So then we left. And then my other friend who's more uptight.
Yeah.
She's like freaking out. And we're just ignoring her. So then I don't know how, but we were like, we need to get back. And then we just could never get back to the border. Like, we just end up going to more places. And then it just ended up, one point I had to go pee. And then I didn't want to pee on, my shoes, because you know when you're drinking you do that squat pee.
Yes.
So I was wearing flip-flops, so I was like, I'll just take these off and pee to the side of them. I don't know where my shoes went. I lost them. So now I'm barefoot in Mexico. And then the guy's like, you guys can hang out at our place. We go to an apartment to a guy that we've never met that can't even get back to the States. And then I just remember his apartment just had scrap metal everywhere.
Oh, God.
I don't know how we didn't get horrifically sexually assaulted or something horrible happened. But then we went to a diner and then it was like sun up and then we came home. But that was one of the worst hangovers. And it's one of those moments, too, where you're like, oh, that could have been potentially horrific. Yeah. But it ended up being like, it was actually pretty fun.
Yeah. You conquered Diablo Gato.
Yeah. We became the queen.
Yeah. But queen.
Border towns are weird. It's all like that. And then you'll have weird white kids going into pharmacies trying to get like ketamine or like cat tranquilizers to get fucked up.
Yeah. The only border town I've ever been to was Tijuana, and that's a whole other beast. And there we would just go to like a dance club that was on the border where underage kids could go and drink. And I remember I went to Burger King outside of it because the bus drops you off. A person takes you directly to the club, and that's all you see of Tijuana. And then I was like, I'm hungry. I'm going to go to Burger King. And I was like, oh, I should not have gone to Burger King. What am I doing here? I am not nearly drunk enough to be like, this is fine. I was very aware of the fact that I was in Tijuana.
You just stand out.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And people just stare at you.
I think because they're like, what is this white lady doing right now?
In this bedazzled halter top and booty shorts.
I'm thinking you're like walking like you own it too. Like, I mean, how crazy to just go into the strip club thinking that we could just request a song from the DJ.
Yeah. Yeah, of course they were trying to get you to take your clothes off. They're like, this is what they want to do. That's why they are at this strip club. Who else comes to Diablo Gato to request songs? Do you remember what song you requested?
I'm sure it was probably either Prince or like Michael Jackson, because that's something that I'm still into that stuff now, but like back then it was extra hardcore.
Did you get your furniture?
My furniture. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I did. And you know what? It's like all IKEA bullshit, and I probably could have just left it there.
Oh, no. It's not even like something timeless.
No. When I think back, I was like, that trip, I mean, it was fun, but it was probably a waste of.
Well, it was your crossroads moment. You know, Britney Spears, she sang karaoke and became a woman. That's maybe your El Diablo Gato is your crossroads moment. You became a woman.
I mean, yeah, fully. That isn't. It's so weird because that wasn't even like close to being my bottom.
No?
No. I drank for years afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
But that was like a fun one.
Yeah, that's a fun one because nothing bad did happen. So it's easy just to be like, oh, well, you know, that was fun. It's when you're older, you're like, well, that was a closer call than I never, ever needed to be.
Yeah. You're like, that was dangerous.
Yeah. That was a whoopsie. I should never do that again.
It's also one of those things like if something did happen to us, none of the nation would feel bad.
Mm-hmm.
They would be like, those girls were absolutely careless in what they did.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that would totally be a victim blaming moment.
Yes.
What were they doing in Mexico? Nice white girls don't go to Mexico.
At 4 a.m?
I mean, it sounds like fun. It sounds like a good
was
time.
fun. Yeah, I know. I don't know. It was just like when you go there, though, it's like, I mean, everything looks like shit in those border towns.
Yeah, and it's like, why did I choose to drink here? Like, did I think this would be? Because at one point you're like, I'm 21. Why do I need to go to a border town to drink?
Yeah. I mean, legit. I'm sorry. I don't know why I'm stuttering, but I guess we were just like, oh, we're just going to have a few drinks.
Mm-hmm.
And then
that's how it always starts.
Yeah. It was definitely something that I did not foresee coming.
No, it never is. But those are also some of the best nights.
The best. I mean, those are my favorite nights.
So you lived in Texas. You started comedy in Texas?
Yeah, I started comedy in Houston. They had a well-known club there that was doing pretty well. So that was kind of well-known at the time. So I just started there. They had mics on Mondays. So I just started going.
Would you have to drink before a mic?
I would. You know, it's crazy. I always knew that I had like a problem with alcohol even before I started drinking. Well, it was always in our family, so I knew that was a thing. So I knew it was an issue. So I did start doing, when I was doing comedy, was to not have alcohol as a crutch. So I didn't drink a lot before, but what I would use alcohol as my treat for completing my task.
Ah, it's your reward.
Yeah. But then the more I got into it, then I got more comfortable on stage, and then I did have quite a bit of drinks beforehand. I think the very first night I was wasted when I went on stage.
Yeah, I feel like the first time it's like the most intimidating.
It's crazy.
So, did you have friends come and watch you?
I think I had one friend come, and it wasn't bad. The first night, I always feel like comics, you get lucky with that first time being pretty good. And then it's everything afterwards that is never as good. And then you're like, okay, now you're in it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now you're working.
Yeah, I made the mistake of listening to my first set I ever did a while ago, and it was 0 laughs. It was incredible. I heard one chuckle, and I recognized the sound of the laugh, and I was like, oh, that's Ashley. Okay, so maybe that's what kept me going. And then I realized that it wasn't at a punchline, so it must have been her having a separate conversation. And
or laughing at your expense, being like, oh my God, my friend is so hilarious right now for trying to do something.
Yeah, well, it's like she wasn't even a friend. She was just like, I got to know her later. But like at the time, I was like, she thinks I'm funny. Great. I don't even think she was laughing at me. I think if that didn't happen, I would have quit because it was so bad and so painful.
Oh yeah.
But she was the one little nugget of like hope. And now I listen back and I'm like, oh, she was not laughing at me at all.
Oh, but you need those in the very beginning because like, why else would you keep doing it?
Oh yeah, there's no way. It was so painful the first 3 months. It was excruciating. Well, the first two, it's still excruciating sometimes when I'm.
Yeah. But
Think-
at least like those first few months, so it's like learning a language.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, I don't even know what I'm doing up here. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know what's going to work for my voice. So you don't even know kind of who you are on stage yet. So it's just like, I don't know. But that is the fun time because you're not expecting anything at that moment. So you're just like learning. So it's just like a good time. And then you're hanging out with comics. And then you get to see tons of free stand-up, which I always enjoyed.
Yeah, that was the best part. When I discovered that you could just go to Gotham and say, I'm a stand-up, and you could stand in the back and watch your favorite comics, I was like, oh, I'm going to do this forever.
I know. And then you're also like, why doesn't anybody else do this?
Yeah, and then 6 years in, you're like, oh, I get it. I get it. Okay, so did you have another intervention after you said it was your first. Was there another?
Oh, no, I didn't have any other interventions. I just had that one. And then there was one time I went out drinking and then I just went AWOL for about 2 days. And that was really hard because my dad thought I was like dead in a ditch. So that's the low point.
God, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I knew I saw how that was really destructive. So, but I didn't even try to get sober until maybe 8 years later. At that time, it was like, they were like, maybe you can do moderation. And I tried it, but it's all or nothing. That's how I like it.
Yeah, I could see that. When you went AWOL, where were you? Were you just...
I went to the comedy club. I had drinks with my usual friends. I got so wasted. And then I crashed at one of my friend's house. And then I had with my hangovers, and this is why I quit, I would get this feeling of immense anxiety that it would stop me in my tracks for a few days where I couldn't answer the phone or leave a place. It was so bad. It was just like fear-based. And then as soon as like 2 days was up, then I could kind of like slowly move back into the world. And so when I wasn't answering my parents' phone calls, and then the 2 days later when I called them, because I was living with them, then my dad was like, I've never heard him cry. And that was the only time that I heard him cry.
Oh, that's tough. Yeah.
Yeah.
That'll make you think.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
So that was the first time that I had actually had an open conversation with my parents about it.
Mm-hmm.
Because the intervention was just like, we think you drink and then blah, blah, blah. And then that was it. And then we're done. But this one, I could actually be like, yeah, I think I do have a problem and I don't know how to fix it. And then they were like, well, maybe moderation. But they were never, I don't know why, but they were never like AA people.
Yeah.
Or rehab. Yeah, I don't know if it's like a thing that makes them feel like it was their fault that it had happened. But I was like, I think I'm just genetically disposed to this, or it's just a behavior that is learned. Like we have addiction. If it's not alcohol, I think food is in there, and shopping and other stuff. So
yeah,
it manifests.
Yeah, for sure. Like in my family, drinking was my dad was a drinker. He's sober now. And so whenever my mom sees me drink a beer, she goes to 100. She's like, Caitlin, you're an alcoholic. You need help. And I was like, it's just one Bud Light. But yeah. But she takes it but my mother is also very, she's extreme. Yeah, she's the extreme version. And then my dad, I don't think cares at all. I think he only cares if my mom cares. Don't upset your mother. Like that's
yeah.
That's the way it is with my dad. But yeah, but drinking, and then we also are emotional eaters, our family.
Yeah.
That's our big thing. And so I've been eating like crazy during the past 2 months.
I know when I got sober, that's all I could do to have that. Because really what it is, I have a hole in my heart and I need to constantly stuff it.
That is poetic.
Where I'm like, it's not stuffed. Get more shit in there. So if it's not, a lot of times I'll eat until I'm like, feel like a piece of shit. Like I never try to buy food like ice cream in huge containers because I will eat to that container. But I see it with myself with social media. Like, you know, I always think if I get a viral video, that'll make me feel better. And I'll get a viral video and then it does for about a few minutes. And then I'm back to seeing what else I can do. So it's just like this. I'm always just trying to fill this void in my soul with carbs, Carbs really feels good. Or sugar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Sugar, coffee for me.
Yes, coffee.
Sugar. I will just, we had to get decaf because I was like, well, I just feel like the taste now. I want that now.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'll switch to decaf in the afternoon because I think I'm constantly drinking some kind of coffee beverage. I probably do 4 or 5 a day. So 2 are caffeinated and then the other 2 are decaf.
Oh, that's good. I do like 2 full on, and then at the night I've tried to switch to chamomile tea. And so now I just drink tea. I just need like a thing. Oh, and then now we're drinking wine.
Yeah.
Like we're sharing a bottle of wine a night. It's nice. It's actually like the most I've drank quantity wise, but not all at once. So it's been like I've been like a responsible adult in quarantine just because I'm not doing anything.
Yeah.
It's like I always drank to keep the party going. And now I'm like just sitting with Steve on the couch watching Grand Designs. Like, what am I going to, we're not raising the roof right now. Actually, they are.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's hard to raise the roof.
Yeah. That was a Grand Designs joke. I'm so sorry. I'm so, ooh, that one. I can't believe I did that pun, but here we are. All right. Thank you for laughing at me, laughing at myself. Oh boy. So when did you make the decision to move to New York for comedy?
It was, I think 2007, I came up here to do a UCB 2-week or 1-week intensive 101. And I had already done the LA thing, and I had known in Houston, I was at a crossroad. I was about to turn 30. And at that time, I already felt like I was a little old to be making a move to like actually pursue it. But now when I look in retrospect, I was like, that was fine. I wouldn't have done it any later, but I think 30 is fine.
Yeah.
But I realized like no one's coming to Texas or Houston to discover you. I mean, every now and then you hear an outlier situation, but most cases, places like agents or managers and Comedy Central, they're just looking in their backyard. It's too much to go and check out. Like everyone's lazy, so they want it as easy as possible. So I knew I had to move to New York, and everyone had said like, oh, they're always looking for female comics. So I came up here, and then it took forever.
Yeah.
You're like, are they looking for female comics? Because I'm here.
Yeah.
And nothing's happening.
Yeah. Yeah. People tell me that all the time. They're looking for females. And I was like, well, I'm still, I am a female. Can you believe it? I am.
I know.
I'm here. And they're like, we're looking for a different female.
Yeah. We only have 2 females that we like to use over and over again.
Yes. And both of them are very attractive.
Yeah.
Oh, and young, they're young. They've been doing comedy about 2 minutes. And good. That's
good
what
for them. But yeah, no. So I decided, I was like, I'm going to move up to New York and give it a go. I mean, I'm glad that I did. And it was probably the best decision that I had. But it was hard. It took me a year. And then I was in a long-term relationship. And I had said, because I was like, it would kill me to know that I never tried. And so I told him. He had proposed, but it was in the worst way ever. I legitimately felt like he proposed because he thought that he needed to.
How did he do it?
It was late at night, and I think he had been drinking all day, and he didn't even have a ring. And he was just like, will you? And he barely could get it out. And then when it happened, he never talked about it really ever again so much, but we knew it was in the air. And then I just remember a few days later, I was like, before we get married, I didn't say yes because I said, I'm worried about our drinking, and there's other concerns that I had. And then a few days later, I was like, before we get married, I'd like to go to New York for at least 6 months and see if it's something that I want to do. And so within around Christmas time, which was 6 months later, that's when I was like, I think I want to stay longer. And that's when we broke up. But I think he had already started dating somebody or like.
Really?
Yeah. It kind of was, it hurt my ego. But this was a thing I was talking about recently. The whole time I was really upset with him because we were dating for so long and he never proposed or even begrudgingly moved in. But I never understood why he didn't want to break up with me. So I felt like he just like proposed because it was an ultimatum kind of situation. I didn't say that, but all of friends and families were like, you got to propose, or like that shit.
How long were you guys together before he proposed?
6 years.
Yeah. And then it's like, oh, she wants, maybe, like, I feel like sometimes couples know, like, the other person knows, like, oh, she's itching to leave.
Yeah.
So I gotta keep her, I gotta try.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing I was talking about, is like, now when I look back, I was like, I can't believe I was wanting him to get married. Not that he was marriage material, but then nor was I. Like, I mean, there's tons of nights I would drink so much that I would barf off the side of my bed and then clean it up the next morning. And I'm like, why won't you marry me? Like, we just weren't good we were just going through things at the time. And, and he wasn't a good fit. He was a nice guy, but he didn't have the drive. I wanted better things for us. And I didn't want to live a life of like what I felt like being a loser. I mean, it feels harsh, but yeah.
Well, it's true. Like, my ex-boyfriend, we were together for 1.5 years. We lived together, and he was working in a bar, and he was fine with that, and he was getting drunk every night, and he was like, why don't you come and hang out with me? We're having so much fun at the bar getting shit-faced. And I was like, because I got things to do.
Yeah.
But he was just like, but this is good enough. Like, this is good enough. And I was like, no, it's not. And then that ultimately ended everything.
Yeah. Yeah, you're like,
yeah.
I need more.
Yeah, and nothing will dry me up faster than a person with no ambition.
Right?
Like that, I don't want to fuck you and your sad, lonely, no drive dick.
Yeah.
Like, it's just
what, like, because he was a constant pot smoker, and it would just like irritate the shit out of him. And then when he'd be like, all of their friends would be like, marijuana's not a drug. I'm like, you guys are the biggest fucking losers I've ever met.
It's medicine.
Yeah.
It's
like,
herbal.
You don't do shit. Like, you're awful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, God. So, okay, so you moved to New York, and then what prompted you to stop drinking? What was that decision?
Well, that's when you go to New York and you start going to the cellar and you start seeing, now you're hanging out with comics that you really admire, and you start noticing they don't drink the way you do. Mm-hmm. No one is drinking at the cellar and just getting wasted before they go up. Mm-hmm. You just notice they're not like, that's what we were doing in Houston. Like, we would just do our mic and then get trashed, and that was fun. But you start realizing, if you want to take this seriously, all your idols are not partying the way that we were doing. And so you're like, oh, I think I need to make some changes. Mm-hmm. And then I was like, you're hungover, and then you cancel a mic because you're like, yeah, I don't want to go 2 miles on the train, which is like an hour, to do 6 minutes.
Yeah.
And then because you're hungover, because it was hard to walk through the city when you're hungover. Like, catching a train when you're hungover and you're like chugging up the stairs, and you're like, you're gonna barf. Like, New York's not a fun city to be hungover in.
No, it is not helpful in any way. It's not, because even if you're laying in bed sick, you're still hearing sirens outside your door, and it's awful. There's no quiet place.
Yeah, it's hot. Like, especially when you first move here, I didn't have an AC unit, so I'm just like lying on the bed, like hungover, and my feet are dirty because the city's dirty because I was wearing flip flops in the city.
I thought you left them in Mexico.
No, baby. I brought them with me.
El Diablo Gato did not kick your habit of flip-flops. All right.
No, you're just, I was just like, New York just sucks for hangovers. And then it's so expensive. But now, like, living here, you know where the good drink deals are.
The good drink deals. And then if you're in Brooklyn, where I was living, like, I worked at a restaurant that was in my neighborhood. And if you went to any bar around there, they knew that you were a bartender, and so they would just give you a discount. All you had to do was tip. And I had a lot of fun summers here, but then I started doing comedy, and it, just like you said, it was like, no, I can't do both. I can't get shit faced and do well on stage.
Yeah.
Because for me, my brain just doesn't work.
It doesn't. And then also when I quit drinking, all of a sudden I had 8 hours of my day open up to work, like writing, tweeting, doing videos, going to do an extra set that night. And because most, when you drink, it's actually quite time consuming.
Yeah, you don't realize that the time kind of slips away because you have a drink and then time goes by faster.
Oh my God. There's so many nights where you're like, how is it 4 a.m? I don't understand this.
Yeah.
We just started and it's 4?
Yeah.
It's so crazy.
Although in quarantine, I think it's switched. Like I won't drink before 5. But then I'm like, all right. And then it's 9:30. I'm like, Jesus Christ, I just want to go to bed.
Yeah.
It's going by so slow.
You're like, shoot me.
And then I look over, my boyfriend's already asleep on the couch like an old man. Just, I think I might make like a little compilation of all the ways Steve falls asleep.
Oh, you should. God, there's so much video of Joe that I'd like to put out there, but he'd be so mad at me.
Does he fall asleep anywhere?
Not that, but like compilations of stuff. But I feel like he wouldn't take that. He wouldn't. I'd be like, it's funny. People think it's funny at your expense. He doesn't like that.
Yeah. I posted one picture of Steve sleeping and he was like, I can't believe you posted that. And then he shared it. And I was like, you can't be mad and then share it. Like, that's not
You're
the
like,
same.
but you're sleeping.
He's sleeping. His legs are crossed. He's just like this little angel just with a pointed toe. It's very dainty and sweet.
God.
And he's like, I hate this. And then he shared it. I was like,
Well, there's nothing funnier to watch your loved one sleep.
Yeah.
You're like, look at him. Look at them. What's going through their little brains right now?
What is he dreaming about? And if we're mad at each other, I'm like, what is that motherfucker dreaming about? It just depends.
So adorable.
Yeah, it's very sweet. And they look so vulnerable. It's like, oh, 5 minutes ago you were trying to be all tough.
I know. And now you're just like a little sleepy bear.
And Steve's so small that it's just like, oh, I could pick you up and carry you to bed.
I know. You could put him in
so
another
sweet.
location. That way he can wake up and be like, what the hell happened last night?
Yeah. Be like, honey, you got crazy.
Yeah. Put him in the hamper.
He'd fit. He's the only one of the two of us who would fit. There's a good size one. Thank you for the tip. He's not going to see it coming.
No.
Well, Sarah, this was so much fun. Thank you for doing it.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. I'm glad we got the tech issue sorted.
Where can people find you?
Follow me on Instagram. I'm also on TikTok, and I'm really thoroughly enjoying that right now. It's my new place, my new playground. But I'm more concerned with Instagram, so just come to Instagram.
What's the handle?
At Tollemache, STOLLEMACHE.
Thank you. Oh, and you have a great podcast called Vag, correct?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, check that out.
Check out Vag. She's got merch, baby.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Sarah. Let's stop recording this bitch.
All right.
Good time.